Sinbad had always known that the sea was more than water. It was a living entity, breathing secrets, whispering tales to those brave enough to listen. On a night when the stars shimmered like 1,000 watchful eyes, he felt a strange call tugging at his heart, a call that no ordinary sailor could hear. He left the familiar harbor behind, steering his wooden ship into the open waters. The waves seemed to recognize him, gently parting to make way, as though they knew the path. The air smelled of salt and mystery, and even the wind appeared hesitant, holding its breath as if the world itself awaited something monumental. After many days of sailing, Sinbad spotted a distant shadow on the horizon. It was an island, shrouded in thick mist that clung to its jagged cliffs. Not a single chart mentioned it. Not a single sailor had whispered its name. It was as if the island had slipped out of memory, existing only for those fated to find it. As Sinbad set foot on its strange shores, a heavy sensation settled over him, pressing against his chest. The trees were silent, the birds absent, and even the wind seemed cautious, as if afraid to disturb the island's secrets. At the heart of the island, he noticed a vast courtyard carved from stone, stretching wider than any plaza he had ever seen. Shadows danced over the ground, and a sense of something ancient and watching stirred in his mind. In the center of the courtyard stood rows upon rows of knights. They were motionless, yet their presence radiated a strange authority. Sinbad's eyes widened as he realized they were not flesh and blood, but crafted entirely of shining iron. Each knight held a sword high, their empty eyes staring into nothingness, their metal bodies perfectly aligned in military precision. Cautiously, Sinbad stepped forward. Each footstep echoed like a drumbeat of doom. He reached out to touch one of the knights, feeling a chill so cold it seemed unnatural, as if life had never touched this metal at all. A sudden breeze whispered through the courtyard, carrying with it a strange, almost sentient energy. Sinbad's heart pounded as he realized these were not ordinary statues, they were guardians. Perhaps cursed, perhaps alive in ways he could not yet comprehend. Without warning, the silence shattered. A deep, grinding sound rose from the ground, echoing off the stone walls. One knight shifted, then another. Soon, the entire formation began to move, the heavy clanking of iron footsteps shaking the courtyard. Sinbad's first instinct was to flee, but he remembered a lesson from an old sailor he had met in his youth. Strength alone cannot overcome steel. Wisdom and light can bend the unbending. He dug into his small satchel and retrieved a simple mirror, a companion that had seen him through countless journeys. Though ordinary to the eye, it held a history of survival and cleverness. Raising it in his trembling hands, he aimed the reflection of sunlight toward the approaching knights. The sunlight struck the knights' iron chests, gleaming and pure. They froze instantly. The relentless march halted mid-step. For a moment, the courtyard held its breath. Then, slowly, the metal began to crack, not shattering, but bending, yielding to the brilliance of light. One by one, the knights became silent statues once more, their power extinguished by something invisible, yet undeniable. Sinbad sank to his knees, gasping, yet grateful for life. He understood in that instant that not all power comes from strength. Some power, the deepest kind, resides in knowledge, cleverness, and light. Sinbad's adventure had only begun. Ahead lay the island's deepest mysteries. Secrets of kings who ruled with fear, and the trials that would test his courage, wisdom, and heart. Light and intelligence can conquer even the greatest steel, and courage paired with wisdom is stronger than any weapon. After his narrow escape from the awakening Iron Knights, Sinbad wandered deeper into the courtyard. His footsteps echoed softly on the cold stone. Despite the stillness, the air was heavy with anticipation, as if the island itself were holding its breath. At the far end of the courtyard, partially hidden by overgrown ivy, he discovered a massive stone gate. Intricate carvings adorned the surface depictions of kings, battles, and strange symbols that seemed to move when viewed from the corner of his eye. Sinbad ran his fingers over the engravings. The metal knights he had faced now made sense. They were not mere statues. They were guardians, bound by an ancient curse to protect something far older and far more dangerous than any human threat. A chill ran down his spine. Somewhere beyond this gate lay the secret that had kept the island hidden for centuries. Peering through a small opening in the gate, Sinbad glimpsed a chamber within. In the center, a massive mural stretched across the wall, showing a king clad in iron, commanding legions of metal soldiers. The king's eyes gleamed with malice, his face twisted with pride and fear alike. A voice seemed to whisper from the shadows. almost carried on the wind itself. The Iron King sought dominion over all lands. He forged his army from the earth's heart. Yet he forgot the one truth. The mind is mightier than iron, and light cannot be caged. Sinbad shivered. He realized the knight's relentless vigilance had been his undoing had he not used the mirror. The island itself was a prison, built to contain the Iron King's ambitions and his army's unyielding obedience. Determined to uncover the full story, Sinbad searched the chamber and found a narrow passageway behind the mural. It led downward, spiraling into darkness. The air cool and damp, his heartbeat quickened. Every instinct told him danger awaited, yet curiosity and courage pushed him onward. The deeper he went, the more he noticed the inscriptions on the walls. They spoke of ancient sorcery, of kings who defied the heavens, and of battles where mortals had fought forces beyond comprehension. Sinbad's mind raced as he pieced together the puzzle. The Iron King had not simply ruled with metal. He had sought immortality, bending life and death to his will. At last, Sinbad reached a vast chamber, the ceiling arched high, low in shadow, and in the center stood a pool of perfectly still water, reflecting the ceiling like a black mirror. Around it, more Iron Knights lay dormant, frozen midst. A voice, clearer this time, echoed in the chamber. He who seeks the Iron King's secret must face himself first. Sinbad gazed into the water and saw not only his reflection but also shadows of fear, doubt, and greed lurking behind him. He realized that the true test of the island was not the Iron Knights, it was the courage to confront one's own heart. He took a deep breath, recalling the mirror that had saved him earlier. Not by force, but by cleverness and light, he had survived. Now, he would need more than courage. He would need wisdom, patience, and cunning. No sooner had he accepted the lesson than the chamber trembled. The Iron Knights around the pool began to stir, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light, the air filled with the metallic clang of armor and the heavy scent of cold steel. Sinbad quickly realized he could not fight them in direct combat. These were not ordinary foes. He needed a plan, something to use the environment, the magic of the island, and his own cleverness. He noticed faint inscriptions above the pool, words that seemed almost alive. Only the light that knows the heart can still the unyielding. With a small mirror still clutched in his hand, Sinbad began reflecting patches of sunlight onto the walls, observing how the light reacted to the symbols. Slowly, he discovered that when light touched certain inscriptions, the knight's movements slowed, as if the words themselves were commanding obedience. Sinbad understood the Iron King's magic could be challenged, not with swords, but with intellect and clever use of the light that revealed truth. Sinbad now stood at the threshold of a dangerous game. The island's secrets were almost within reach, but the Iron King's legacy was cunning and treacherous. One misstep could awaken the full power of the Iron Army. The adventure would continue, testing not only Sinbad's courage, but the very limits of his wisdom, as the island prepared to reveal its final, chilling trials.